Hi my friends, the movie starts with a guy awakens to find himself imprisoned in a vault room with a dead mouse, a fly's felt pulp, and a padlocked metal cabinet. The man gets to his feet and tries in vain to open the vault door. At first he believes that his colleagues are making fun of him and this is a joke. After a few hours, the man's confusion over what's happening grows. After a little period, he lost all control. He knocks loudly on the door and says he has to use the restroom right away, but nobody replies. He tries to call for help, but is unable to connect to any networks. He tries to unlock the metal cupboard too, but to no avail. After becoming weary and angry, the following day he had to drink the urine to stay alive. And we witnessed him loneless and afraid, nearly goes insane, smashing everything in his path and smashing the light. Suddenly, he spots a key in the lamp, breaks it right away, takes the key, and realizes it's the key to the metal cabinet, and he opens it right away. There are several tools within, such as hammer, blowtorch, and chisel. The man decides to use these tools to smash through the vault door, but after a few minutes, he gives up, since he can't figure out how to use the tools correctly. The man then tries to activate the ceiling-mounted fire alarm and turn on the sprinklers. He thinks he can drink enough of the water it contains, but he discovered that nothing happened, even after lighting it on fire, which disappoints him. Then we see the man feel very frustrated and angry and hit everything around him. And as a result, the iron cabinet falls to the ground. And he discovers that there is a hole in the wall behind the cabinet, and he starts digging in to try to escape and survive. But extreme hunger and exhaustion caused the man to notice the dead mouse and worms surrounding it. Sadly, he had to eat the worms to avoid dying. The man then keeps digging until he eventually pierces the wall, at which point he notices the iron rods and uses the tools he finds to get rid of those bars. Then he spots a glimmer of hope giving light, and immediately the man steps into the second room, but unfortunately he discovers that it's just a basement with an iron door, like the previous one. This has thoroughly infuriated him, because it feels like all of his hard work has been for nothing. The second room has a lantern next to a coffin. He removes the coffin's lid and sees a woman dressed traditionally. He touches her gently to make sure she's dead, but she awakens abruptly. She screams in fear and flees from him, despite his attempts to communicate with her. They are unable to communicate with each other because of the language barrier. Fearful, the woman runs to the first vault room, where the man had been staying. The man calmly lies down to rest inside the coffin, not even making an attempt to pursue her. And the third day the woman wakes him up and tells him to keep digging. However, the man has run out of energy to continue the work. His hands are also seriously damaged. The man begins by teaching the woman how to dig. After realizing they have no other option, the woman needs to go to the bathroom, so she heads to the other room. And as she goes to take off her pants, the man follows her, yelling at her in sign language, "You have to pee in my leather shoes, so we can have water." She initially resists, but when she learns that the man hasn't had any water in 3 days, and that her urine is necessary to his survival, she finally gives up. Then she gives him the shoes full of urine, and the man drinks it, and then he gives it to her to drink, and the woman reluctantly takes it and drinks it in spite of her contempt. The man then eats extra maggots to make up for his protein deficit. Then he returns to his work, while the woman sits in a corner and weeps at her dreadful fate. She expresses in her disappointment in her original tongue, the woman then sobbing uncontrollably as a result of their predicament, and she believes that they will not survive. The man decided to sing a song to her to make her feel better. Encouraged by his words, the woman progressively wipes away her tears and works alongside him. Abruptly, the man accidentally hitting his hand instead of the chisel. At this point, the woman removes her headscarf, tears it, and covers his wound. Subsequently, the two begins cooperating and focuses on breaching the wall. As they continue working, the latch on the vault door behind them automatically rotates. They rush to the door, but as they approach, it locked quickly. When this keeps happening, they consider ignoring it because they believe someone is manipulating them. But it takes them a while to discover the true code
It turns out that the door opens automatically when they turn their backs to the door, and the two begins to retreat. Unexpectedly, the door stays open, but unfortunately, they enter a third room, similar to their previous rooms, and they feel very frustrated. But we see that this room has a grave in the middle of it. And here, the man starts digging inside the grave to know if they can get out through it. But the man is so tired from hunger and thirst. The woman says to use the same strategy to open the vault door. Sadly, this time their plan fails. The man begins to suspect that someone is behind it all, wants them to murder each other. He assumes that unless one of them is killed, they won't be able to depart. And he tries to kill the woman, but he can't. Eventually, he gives up and continues to dig in the grave until he completely loses his strength and lies inside the grave. The woman, worried about him, checks on him and finds that he has a fever. She smacks and kicks him to keep him awake. She then manages to lift him from the grave and give him some time to unwind. She starts beating on the vault doors out of frustration, but nothing happens. And she screams a lot and knocks on the door and expresses her great sadness and resentment and calls for help, but nothing happened and no one responds to her screams. And she cries very sadly, and in a very sad moment she sobs and offers the man some of her tears to keep him alive, and she kisses him. Then she takes off his clothes and begins to caress him tenderly, waking him up fast. Her goal is to keep him conscious by having an ice cream dream with him. Remarkably, her strategy succeeds, and the man emerges from the ordeal, feeling revitalized. After that, the two decide to take a few hours off. The woman is sleeping next to him. When the man wakes up, sees that the woman trembling from the cold, he crawls into the second room, tearing the coffin liner, and then comes back to cover her. Then the man sleeps next to her again and takes some time for rest. And during their sleep, the man hears that the same self-locking vault door as before a few hours. He's shocked and wakes the woman quickly, but to prevent her from look at the door and move in the direction of the iron door by walking backward. And they move very slowly while maintaining their position like this and turn their back to the door. And suddenly, and at an unexpected moment, the door opens and they feel a great sense of relief as soon as they exit the room and seeing a beautiful landscape with waterfalls, birds and flowers. The two grinned at one another as they saw this paradise in front of them. And finally, after all this tiredness, the movie ends here. Please press like and subscribe to the channel to get a new movie recaps. Miss Bombastic was with you. Goodbye my friends, with my love.